Hello Scorpio friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my June 2020 Astrology Scorpio Must Knows. We're going to talk about Mercury Retrograde, Venus Retrograde, two eclipses this month. Two eclipses of the three eclipses that are going to occur in this cycle are happening this month. We're going to talk about them. We're also going to talk about that wild Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, which is part of the mega mischief that we've been experiencing in the world with the breakdown of the systems and the coronavirus. So we'll talk about that as well. Something to understand about this month is that it is covered in retrograde and it is covered in transformation, major changes, and huge endings, crazy beginnings. Powerful endings and drama-filled beginnings are common during eclipse cycles. We have this happen every 6 months. But because this is the grand finale time of the 2-year cycle of the Cancer Capricorn eclipses that have occurred since the middle of 2018, those are getting wrapped up at the same time as Mercury's going retrograde in Cancer, which is going to bring a ton of focus on home and family for everyone in the zodiac. That will also make beautiful aspects with your placements. Then we have the solar eclipse, which is in Cancer, which is all this more energy about homes and housing and real estate and home-based work and, you know, family, ancestry, things like that. All of that's coming up in a huge way. At the same time, we still have Venus retrograde. And that's occurring, you know, so we've got just like all of these layers of truth that each have their own implications. But the energy of this month is more like following the cues of what it comes to you. It's still not a huge time. People are going to want to do stuff because they're restless. Besides the fact of what's going on in the world, things might start opening up a little bit in some areas, and then people will just be crazy trying to like go get things done because there's a ton of energy in Gemini, and that's going to make everyone want to be busy and, you know, in whatever way that's allowed in your circumstances. And it also makes people restless. So people are going to be restless to do things, but the types of things that are better to do are more inward and backward rather than trying to make huge plans, big launches, you know, all of those kind of things, because the retrograde brings the tides in. The energy of the tides coming in brings us more into the emotional realms, brings us more into the realms of observation and going back to stitch up a new straight scarf. This is the analogy I'm using this month. Okay, when you learn to knit or crochet, if you go to make a scarf, which is the easiest thing ever, if you miss a stitch, which people learning usually do, you'll find that your scarf starts to get angled. Okay, so one side is straight, and then as you miss the stitch, it's like encroaching, and then you're like, hey, wait a minute, what's happening to my what's happening to my scarf? So you have to unstitch all of those stitches from back to where you made the mistake. So this month is going to be a huge month of you unstitching things intentionally, going back into unwinding things, being the earthworm, going back over old things, and the universe unstitching things for you, whether you want them unstitched or not. So it's a good time to be flexible, to keep things light. You can say yes to opportunities that come if they feel right, but it's not a big time to try to force and plan and have an agenda. This month is unusual in the way that we also have double more mischievous aspects than we do sweet ones. So we've got that to add to the whole picture. All right, so it's kind of a good energy to just kind of continue sitting back and do what you can do, but as soon as you start getting roadblocks, just kind of pulling back in instead of forcing it. All right, so I made this nice little grid. So I'm going to just give you a quick overview of the 6 top highlights of the month, and then we'll look at the charts to see how these are, you know, connecting with Scorpio placements. If you love to know what things are going to happen on what dates and you want more information than this, you can sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. For the people on my email newsletter list, I send out a very long review of every aspect, what the aspect is, what you can expect from it, as well as a general write-up of the month so that you have a written version of understanding what's coming, and all that comes to your inbox a month ahead. All right, so you can do that at anniehelpsyou.com. All right, so here's that June 2nd, Mercury shadow period starts. June 17th or 18th, depending on your time zone, is when Mercury actually goes retrograde. But I want you to see here how the shadow period starts in the beginning of the month. Shadow periods are like when you turn on a pot to be boiled, pot of water to be boiled. The day that the shadow period starts is the day the heat goes on, and every day until the actual retrograde, it's building up to a boil. So there's more and more activity of the nature of retrogrades. And if you want to have more details about what the nature of Mercury retrograde is, you can search for Annie Botticelli Mercury retrograde, and that will give you a very in-depth look at things that I'm not going to go into now because we have to talk about other things. And then June 17th, 18th, Mercury goes in retrograde, 14 degrees of Cancer back to 5 degrees of Cancer. This is a beautiful angle for you all. I'll show you on the charts. Then it goes direct on July 12th, and the post-shadow period lasts until July 26th. So the confusion about the plans, the inward energy from Mercury, that starts to shift as we get towards the end of July. Okay, and if you're looking for like a little period of time where the retrograde energy bubbles up, if you've been following my reports for a while, you know that this is this is a year of retrogrades, and there are things that people sometimes want to do that have momentum in a retrograde. At the end of July is going to be a little window after the Venus shadow period passes from the retrograde, after the Mercury shadow period passes from the retrograde, and just when the Mars pre-transit retrograde shadow period starts. But you'll be far enough away from the actual Mars retrograde that like the end of July into August can have some good energy compared to the rest of the year if you have to get some things going. So if you can kind of just work internally until then, you might find that you have more oomph at that time. Okay, so then we've got this June 5th eclipse, lunar eclipse, 15 degrees of Sagittarius. Full moon eclipses tend to bring things to light. They tend to bring things out into the open. Hidden things are revealed. Drama, crazy conclusions. Since this is an eclipse, there's even more of a powerful conclusion, although this is the beginning of the Sagittarius Gemini eclipse cycle that runs to the end of 2021. If you want to know exactly where Scorpio's early, middle, and late degree placements will see that hit, what field of experience will be highlighted for you from that eclipse, watch my May report, and I will show you on the chart where that hits for you and direct you to the resources where you can see everything that I have heard of people experiencing where it's going to hit for you for eclipses. Okay, then June 21st, June 20th or 21st, depending on the time zone, new moon solar eclipse, 0 degrees of Cancer. This is going to be in a nice angle again for you all. Okay, so that Sagittarius one is a little bit awkward. That's not as nice as these Cancer and Capricorn placements for you all. But at least you have these things on your side. So we'll look at that on the chart. I'll show you where that's going to hit for you. And then June 24th or 25th, depending on your time zone, Venus will go direct. And then that post-shadow period where it's kind of waking up, getting back to its full strength, will be July 29th. Okay, so every day after June 25th, there'll be more clarity, more, forward movement in any of the things that were decided or figured out in that time. That angle of that Venus retrograde is not in a great angle for you all. That's kind of a little bit awkward, okay? And we'll talk about that too. So Venus rules love, beauty, money, and design. So we've had this long 4-month thing with all of these topics of design and beauty and things coming back from the past. And I have amazing, very comprehensive reports. So if you just search for Annie Botticelli Venus Retrograde, I have a video, I have a 12 blog series, I have a Venus Retrograde do's and don'ts updated blog that I just add stuff to all the time so you can understand how to best use that energy. And then there's this June 30th Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, and that is going to take place in a nice angle for Scorpio placements, but that is one of the mischief makers. So I expect a lot of intensity. April 4th was the first time that crossed together, and then this is the second time, and the third time will be in November. These planets crossed paths last time in 2008 when the collapse, the previous collapse that we had occurred. So you can see cyclically when Jupiter and Pluto get together, especially in Capricorn regarding systems, this is what we've been having go on, is the power of Plutonian energy of birth, death, transformation, and rebirth, and then the expansion and amplification from Jupiter. Okay, so now we can look at the charts and go into more details about where this is hitting for you all. So I will be talking about a lot of things that are true for all Scorpio placements, but to make the most of the other information I'm going to give, you'll want to know where you are in the 30-day spectrum. Early degree placements are basically October born or 0 to 9 degrees. Middle degree Scorpios around November 1st through 10th, or 10 to 19 degrees. And late Scorpios around November 11th through the rest of the sign, or 20 to 29 degrees. If you missed that, just go back, rewind a little bit. All right, so let's use, we're going to use the early degree chart just to talk about some things that are true for everybody. And then if there's something specific about certain dates, I will let you know. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about here is look at all of this Gemini energy. Some of these planets are moving in a longer term, these right here. So these have just been kind of in Scorpio for a while, making it a challenging angle. See, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 signs away is an awkward angle. It brings awkwardness and just kind of like the sound of nails going down a chalkboard. And now we've got the Sun and Venus. Venus has been retrograding here, kind of rubbing on your placement in a way that isn't great. And then the Sun is going to join this. So expect annoyances from these planets as they seek to show you the weak links that you have in your expression. Gemini is a highly communicative energy that can really grate on Scorpios who prefer often silence, quiet, peace, and not a bunch of chatter. Okay, so if you're like in your inner world and there's like a nuisance and overstimulation around you, it could be grating to your nerves. Okay, so your nervous system might get a little bit pounded from these. And so just kind of do your due diligence, knowing that this is going on, that you might need some more nervous system support for that. All right, so, and again, this is for everybody. Now, the second thing that I want to talk about has to do with this Mercury retrograde. So Mercury is going retrograde from 14 degrees back to 5 degrees. This is making a beautiful angle, the best angle in all of astrology for your Scorpio placement. And Mercury rules news and information, and Mercury actually even rules Gemini. So it's kind of interesting because the planet that is making a nice aspect for you is maybe hopefully soothing some things over from the Sun and Venus going through the sign that the planet rules, you know, creating some annoyances. So having Mercury in a nice angle for your placement can be things that you worked in the past coming into fruition in a big way. Your expression coming out in a wonderful way. This is a great time for creative efforts. Even though the retrograde might not be the best for trying to have a lot of steam to push things forward, if something is moving forward on its own, you can roll with it. And getting your creative expression fine-tuned is a theme that has been going on for Scorpios for a while. And I've been watching this very carefully because there's just a lot of layers as to what Mercury is trying to do. So if you've been doing your work as far as like fine-tuning your expression and figuring out, you know, finding your voice basically, then this aspect can really bring some things to life and bring some things into fruition for you involving relationships because of the communication connection, artistic endeavors, work endeavors, or anything else like that. So you could see some good news coming in from that. And those of you who are around like October 27th through November 4th or 5th or something like that, you all are going to get exactly hit by this in a beautiful way 3 times. So those of you in that group, you'll get some extra kisses from Mercury, hopefully bringing wonderful news and things back from the past. Now, as I say this, it's always so important to remember, eclipses can bring in news that are not good. The Venus retrograde is not in a great angle for you. Things can come in that aren't positive. So when I'm speaking about Mercury possibly bringing this good news in, if good news doesn't come in or if bad news comes in, it's not because the potentials weren't there. It's because there are multiple factors going on. It's kind of like a little kid. This is kind of what it reminds me of. You know, if you ever see little kids with like paints, you know, they get it everywhere, right? So if they have like 5 colors of paints, because we're looking at these, you know, multiple aspects, then like they're whirling around the house, like putting a handprint here and getting stuff in the furniture here and, you know, all of this with the paint. So they have all these colors. So there's all of these different things that can show up. But some of those colors might make it onto paper and make this the cutest thing ever, right? So that's like these nice aspects, you know? So these things that can really gel are rolling around as potentials at the same time as the annoyances. So, okay, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about has to do with, well, I already told you that you need to look to the May report for that June 5th eclipse. And we were going to look at, oh, right, that's what I want to look at. This conjunction. So Jupiter and Pluto are going to get together again, and that's happening for everyone in the zodiac. Just taking a peek here. Yeah, so pretty much everybody is likely to have expression of this in the third house. Those of you in the late degree placements, you can see that it kind of moves over here, this conjunction, into the line between the second and third house. So you all, towards the end of the sign, have more of a chance for like the money sector and the self-sufficiency sector to be brought up in a big way, because that house is always also aspected. But even those of you at the end still have a chance to have this third house manifestation. But again, remember, this is all happening in this nice angle to your placement. So Pluto coming through with transformation, Jupiter coming through with amplifying things, can really make, you know, a big boom. And we're hoping that that will be a good boom for you because of the nice angle here in the third house. And the third house has to do with cousins and relatives. You might get news of pregnancies in your family, you know, news of births or something, you know, something where you're combining working with a cousin or a sibling or an aunt or an uncle. This is a house that's very much highlighting these relatives. And since there's like this big occurrence there, something very transformational can happen. But there is always the chance that it could be a boom, like something could blow up in a way that's not very positive. But we'll just keep the hope flame up. All right, so I'm just going to refer back to my list so I can stay focused here. Right, the Venus retrograde. Okay, so when we were talking about Venus here making an angle that's not as great here, the Venus retrograde is not making the great angle here. And yes, okay, well, good. We already talked about that, actually. We talked about how in love and beauty and money and design, there could be some awkwardness in trying to pull through. And you know where I see a very strong potential of this really showing up is like, you could have been working on things. And a lot of times when Scorpios are working on things, you can't always see it in the external yet, but they know it, and people close to them sometimes will know it, who really get them. Like, for instance, if you're working to create a business, but there's nothing that you can see tangible, but you've done this inner work where you've created these things. You have all of this stuff on your computer. You've got things that nobody can see in the world. This could be like the rub that forces you to like make the jump where you really do it or you really see it. Now, I'm not saying that you should launch this month per se, but it's like turning the things from the inner world into the outer world. You have this ongoing theme of translating things from the inner into the outer. And so it's possible that there could be some bumps in that department as you navigate through your own personal journey of doing that in a bigger way. All right, so now we're going to talk about this solar eclipse. We're going to see where that shows up for everybody. It's at 0 degrees of Cancer. All right, so that's the first thing we have to know. Anybody who is in the first few days of the sign, like up until 5 days in, 7 days in, so we'll just say most of the early degree placements, you're going to have the potential for extra blessings from this solar eclipse because it's going to make a trine with your placement, okay? So a lot of times during eclipse time, you've got people who are having so much change that it boggles even your mind and you're not them. And then you have people who are not having anything noticeable going on, but they're holding space for the other people. You know, like they've got their mother on the phone because she's freaking out and has something going on. They got their kids on the phone and they've got something going on. And maybe the thing you have going on is holding space for the other people. So the tighter the aspect is into a personal placement of yours, it's like locking it from the external into your experience, then the more likely you're going to have something notable happen here. Okay, so those of you in the early degree sector have more of a chance for outcomes. Now, those of you in the middle degree sector will have more of a chance for those positive outcomes in the next eclipse cycle, which is the July 5th one we'll talk about in July, but you might start to see that coming. Okay, so at least 2/3 of the sign of Scorpio is going to have very meaningful, positive aspects with the Cancer Capricorn eclipse finale. Okay, so this 5th house, let's look at this here. Wait, not the 5th house. Hold on a second. All right, so we're talking about the 0 degrees of Cancer. So that's over here. That's the early degree placements. So you can see, those of you who are in the early part, you might have some influence in the 9th house. And for some of you, it will actually be in the 9th house. But that's just used in the very, very early part. Every day that you march into the Scorpio sign, it's dropping back in to the 8th house. Okay, so by the time you get to the late degree, friends, it's like really solidly in the 8th house. So that's bringing up the energy of partnerships for all Scorpios in a huge way. New relationships, new chapters of relationships, new helpers, new collaborations. And a lot of these will be either things you've worked on in the past are finally gelling, okay? And it could be that somebody comes to you because they've known you for a while or heard about you, and they're coming to you, so it's new to you, but you're not new to them. Or it could be the other way around. But there is this very strong focus that unless you've got a serious intuition or things are naturally flowing in a certain way, it's better to not try to force a bunch of things to happen and to just kind of sit back and see what comes in. We always talk about this web, right? The weaving of the web before this time. And you sit back and see what food comes into your web, and then you can eat the food or not eat the food. So if you want to see more, so this is for all early, middle, and late degree placements. The video that I made called Eclipses in Scorpio or 8th house is the video that you want to watch. Okay, so if you go to Annie Botticelli YouTube or AnnieHelpsYouTV.com, that's my homepage, you'll see I made an eclipse series. So I've given you a couple of examples of how these energies can manifest, but if you want to hear about all of the things that I've heard about through doing readings for so long and watching this, where this is hitting for you, because even though the eclipse is not in Scorpio, it is falling in the 8th house, which is ruled by Scorpio. So there's the same energy. So you can search for Annie Botticelli eclipses in 8th house, and it should take you to this video, and then you can see how this might manifest for you with lots more detail. Also, you can look for eclipses in Cancer or 4th house, okay, because that's going to be the sign. If you want to get a jump on the next eclipse, you can look for eclipses in Capricorn and then Annie Botticelli, and that will talk about that July eclipse potential from the sign. And then in the month of July, I'll tell you which house it's going to hit for you. Now, for those of you who are in the early degree designation, you're also going to have the chance for this influencing in the 9th house. And this has to do with editing, publishing, teaching, writing, long distance travel, which may or may not be open by the time this comes. That's just one of the potential manifestations. International business or connections, which could be virtual. New spiritual connections, new breakthroughs with things you've figured out. It could have to do with new optimism. And there are a lot of different ways I've seen this manifest. So you all look for eclipses in Sagittarius or 9th house. And then Annie Botticelli, and that will take you to that. And then you'll have a good, very broad understanding of the types of things that could happen. So overall, most of the things going on this month are in nice angles for Scorpio placements. We've got some of those nuisance Gemini things that are going on, but that's really the minority compared to everything else. And even those, towards the end of the month, the sun is going to get into Cancer, which is going to be back in a nice angle for you, okay? So, you know, the focus on home and family and housing and real estate and home-based business, online business, you know, ancestry, genetics, things like that, homeschooling, things like that are going to be very strongly highlighted. You've got those other relatives, the siblings, the, you know, cousins, aunts, uncles that could have some powerful news or some important connections for you. You're unstitching your scarf, or it will be unstitched for you back to the point where you made a first mistake so that you can straighten it out, make everything right, and then start the process of stitching everything straight in your life again. So this is a really powerful month where you can really, really make some headway, and where in general, even though the general climate of the stars is a little bit heavy, highly emotional, full of transformation and change, full of unpredictable possibilities, it still has a lot of energy that's tied in a nice angle for you. So I'm hoping that that manifests with things gelling in a magical way for you. If you find that things aren't gelling now, or especially if they haven't been gelling ever for you, please hear my message about inner work. Inner work is where we understand that we're creating life from inside of ourselves, that we have imprints in us that have a vibrational resonance, and that vibrational resonance attracts experiences to us to learn lessons and to heal and to shift our vibrational resonance into different experiences. So if you are hearing potentials in horoscopes go by that are great, and all you seem to have is a terrible time, it's not because astrology is wrong. Astrology is what it is. It's a reflection of the stars as an experience that we have as potentials that are sitting around waiting to be manifested, and in various stages of manifestation. You know, it's not that, you know, because that's there and that's true. But what you're calling out of the ethers, you know, is your responsibility. And this retrograde time is an exceptionally powerful time to really start realizing that you are more empowered, you have more powerful than you could ever imagine possible, and that's for better and worse. And that if you can get in touch with that and really make some positive shifts internally by owning that, rather than moving through life as a victim of things, you know, feeling like things are happening to you, you can really start to change your life around. So this could be a game changer month for you. If you'd like more support, definitely check out all my free resources. You can sign up for my free email newsletter at anniehelpsyou.com. I have tons of free blogs, hundreds of blogs that I've written at anniehelpsyou.com, and also cozybysweetstarlight.com. You can see both of the, or all of the links of the things I talk about in the notes underneath this video. If you resonate with how I teach and you want to learn, either to become a professional astrologer or just because you love astrology and you want to go deeper, you can sign up for my very comprehensive course. You can see all my courses at lumelife.com, my school, Luminous Life Multiversity, LUMElife.com. You can see my astrology course there, beastropro.com, beastropro.com. Definitely also pre-order my book, Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that what I try to do is help you understand the energetic principles at play so that you can align with them. When it's raining, bring an umbrella. You know, when it's sunny, bring your sunscreen. And so if you understand these energetic potentials and you align with them, like don't go to the beach on a crappy day, go to the beach on the nice day. You know what I mean? Then you have a better experience. So if you want to have more help with projects and special layers of growing into using astrology to align with the natural rhythms, and you will love my book, Planetology. You can search for Annie Botticelli Planetology. You can find more information on my Penguin Random House author page. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it international at all kinds of different places. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.